So the new Scream 7 trailer has finally been released. Let's break it down. So Stu Macher's house has now been turned into a B&B. It's filled with a bunch of stab memorabilia. And the opening shot shows a couple where the boyfriend is giving in to all of the gimmicks, all of the set pieces, and is essentially super stoked to be there, which is why Ghostface is going to burn it all down. Now, I suspect that the burning of the Stu Macher house is going to happen in the opening scene. And although the twins from Scream 5 and 6 are featured in the trailer, I do think that they will be the next to be killed, which will bring us into the new Woodsboro, which is now Pine Grove, and both of them have like a woodsy name. And Sydney's pretty daughter is named Tatum, and Tatum was her best friend in the original Scream, and is also Dewey's sister. So she's paying homage to that, which I love. And Tatum, her daughter, is being targeted as a means of torturing Sydney, which means that the kills in this movie are going to be personal, where the new Ghostface claims to have grown up in Woodsboro, which is why Pine Grove, where Sydney lives now, reminds this new Ghostface of their hometown, where Sydney is trying to live a quiet suburban life and is presumably the owner of this coffee shop, where her husband, played by Joel McHale, is a police officer. Sydney's daughter is going to have to fend for herself and ultimately follow in her mother's footsteps. She's going to have to become the fighter which she longs to be. And of course, Gail shows up in her classic red suit with her cameraman in tow, ready to unmask the new killer. My plot predictions for Scream 7 will include the opening scene showing Stu Macher's house, which is now a tourist trap, being burned to the ground, where the visiting couple will not survive, and neither will the twins, which will lead us into a murder that devastates the new town that Sydney is staying in, Pine Grove. And Pine Grove will become the new Woodsboro. Tatum's friend group includes McKenna Grace, who I think will be the first friend to die, but will come back later as a potential killer. However, she won't be the mastermind, she'll be one of the minions. Anna Camp could potentially play her mom, where we could see an interesting scenario where Anna Camp and McKenna Grace play a mother-daughter duo, who are the killers, who are fighting against the mother-daughter duo of Sydney and Tatum, who are the survivors. If Anna Camp is not playing McKenna Grace's mom, I could also see her potentially having ties, maybe as a sister to Officer Judy Hicks, with a revenge plot of her own. Mark, who has also been announced as part of the cast, is absent from the trailer, but I could also see him potentially playing a police officer, a neighbor, or potentially is a co-business owner with Sydney's new coffee house. If he's a potential killer, his motivation would be for monetary gain for their business. Sydney's husband, who's played by Joel McHale, could also potentially be a stepfather to Tatum, which means there's no real familial ties and gives him motivation to attack. And although this might be Sydney's attempt at her own Dewey, clearly his character is shrouded in darkness. The Ghostface killers so far have already been the boyfriend, friends, family, and even fans. The new Ghostface could be either a coworker, a neighbor. Now, if I was writing and directing Scream 7, I would make Gail Weathers the Ghostface killer. She would be the mastermind who's fueled by grief in the wake of losing Dewey, because Sydney and Gail have technically been foes since the beginning, and their main tie has always been the Woodsboro murders. In fact, Gail capitalized on it. In Scream 4, Gail was a bored housewife, an uninspired writer living in the shadow of Sydney's success. Where Sydney now has a husband and a daughter, Gail only has her career, which is always reignited by these Ghostface killings. So I could see a take where Gail would be wanting to strip Sydney of all the things that she no longer has, or never had the opportunity to have. If they go this route where they make one of the original members one of the killers, then they'd be following suit with the reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer. But I think the idea of having Gail be the mastermind behind it all since the beginning is really intriguing. Now, where Stu Macher comes into play, that's up to question if he's still alive or not. If he is, that would be an epic return. But after the recent revival, I'm also left wondering, where's Kirby? Scream 7 is going to take us back to where it all began, putting Sydney, our final girl, back in main focus, which means that these kills are going to cut deep, and the betrayal is going to cut even deeper. In fact, in this scene right here, you can see that in her poster board, she has a name Ben included. Her boyfriend, a victim, or a suspect. There are bound to be multiple Ghostfaces, but I am very excited for this next installment. Who do you think the Ghostface killer will be in this one?